Hearthstone has been around for over a decade, with 29 expansions, 13 mini-sets and 5 adventures along the way, and in that time released over 5,000 cards. A lot of these cards were absolutely unplayable, but some, they immediately defined the meta. So today, we're looking at some of the cards that broke Hearthstone the moment they were released. While some were nerfed within 2 days, others warped the meta for months. Let's jump in and take a look at 7 cards that instantly broke the meta.
Bring out your dead.
Let's start with one of the most notorious cards in Hearthstone history, Undertaker. Released in the very first adventure, Curse of Naxxramas, this 1 mana 1/2 gained +1/+1 stats every time you played a Death Rattle minion. Now, that may not seem terrifying today, but back then, if you didn't remove it immediately, it often snowballed completely out of control. It was especially powerful in aggressive decks, such as Hunter, as it could quickly gain stats with cheap Death Rattles, such as Web Spinner, Leper Gnome and Haunted Creeper. And if you couldn't answer an early Undertaker, the game was pretty much over. Hunter dominated during this time thanks to its great Death Rattle curve and powerful finishers like Leroy Jenkins, Unleashed Hounds and Kill Command. It took 6 long months, but then Blizzard finally nerfed it by removing the health gain, and that was a grave it couldn't dig itself out of.
I'm in charge now.
Now, let's go over one of the most played cards in Hearthstone history, Patches the Pirate. Released in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, Patches was a 1 mana 1/1 that summoned itself from your deck when you played a pirate. It may not seem like much, but it absolutely dominated the meta. While Mean Streets of Gadgetzan brought us 3 factions, the Grimy Goons, the Jade Lotus and the Cabal, the real faction of the set was Patches. Played in every aggro deck and often even in control decks, it made decks like Pirate Warrior and especially Aggro Shaman take over the meta. Despite its massive impact on the meta, it took more than a year for Blizzard to nerf it, removing its charge and even changing its voice line. But even with the nerf, Patches is still making waves to this day in Wild.
My greetings.
And next up is a card that turned Druid's weakness into its strength and completely shut down any aggro decks trying to counter it, Spreading Plague. Released in Knights of the Frozen Throne, this 5 mana druid spell summoned a 1/5 Scarab with taunts and repeated it until it matched the opponent's board. In the past, Ramp Druid often struggled in the early game while setting up their powerful late game cards, but Spreading Plague turned that on its head. When facing down a white board, Druid had no good way to come back, until now. With this card, it could neutralize boards or even get ahead. Combined with other powerful new tools like Ultimate Infestation and Malfurion the Pestilent, Jade Druid became the most dominant deck in the game. Ironically, the only real counter was another Druid deck in Aggro Druid, which had enough early pressure to win before Jade Druid could respond. It took over a month for Druid to finally wither, but with Spreading Plague going to 6 mana and Innovate being nerfed to only give 1 mana, its reign was over.
The oceans churn and the heavens cry.
Then we have a card that so utterly dominated the meta, it received the fastest balance changes ever at the time, Galakrond the Tempest. Released in Descent of Dragons, it was one of 5 Galakrond hero cards that, when invoked by specific cards, would transform into increasingly powerful versions. At full power, it summoned 2 8/8 elementals with Rush, equipped you with a 5/2 weapon, and upgraded your hero power to summon a 2/1 elemental with Rush. For just 7 mana, this was one of the most powerful cards ever printed. Not only did it let you instantly swing the board, it also applied immediate pressure with a massive weapon. And Galakrond wasn't alone. It came with a very strong support package, including cards like Kronk's Dragonhoof and Dragon's Pack. And we still had Shadowwalk in Standard, allowing you to repeat every battle cry, including Galakrond's. The deck was so dominant, it had virtually no counters and took over the ladder, forcing Blizzard to nerf it just 2 weeks later, the fastest balance patch at that time. While Galakrond itself was never directly nerfed, it was heavily affected by nerfs to cards around it. After these nerfs, it never reached its former glory again, but will always be remembered for its thunderous entrance and the lightning-fast nerfs.
How is it even possible?
Now, let's talk about a card we definitely were not prepared for, and one that's held the record for fastest nerf in Hearthstone history for over 5 years, Skull of Gul'dan. Released in Ashes of Outland alongside the brand new Demon Hunter class, this 5 mana spell drew 3 cards, and if played from the left or rightmost position in your hand, it discounted those cards by 3 mana. And what an entrance Demon Hunter made. It took over the meta within hours. Things got so bad, no other class even had a win rate close to 50%. That level of domination led Blizzard to nerf Skull, along with 3 other cards, just 2 days after launch. But even with 4 nerfs, Demon Hunter didn't let go. It still kept the meta in a stranglehold. It took multiple rounds of nerfs to finally bring the class in check, but Skull remained a cornerstone in nearly every Demon Hunter deck until it rotated 2 years later. Let's just hope it takes another 10,000 years before Illidan unleashes his fury again.
Destiny calls to you.
Next up is a location that helped turn Death Knight into the most dominant class in the game, Construct Quarter. Released with the mini-set Return to Naxxramas, this 3 durability location destroyed a friendly minion to summon a 4/5 monstrosity with Rush. Death Knight was already strong before the mini-set, but fittingly, Naxxramas gave it a massive boost. Construct Quarter looked good on reveal, but few predicted just how much it would warp the meta. While it was a natural fit in Unholy Death Knight, and even made Blood Death Knight run X, it found its true home in Frost Death Knight. It let you dominate the early game and nothing else even came close to the tempo it would provide. And when followed up by cards like Marrow Manipulator or Estelor, especially with Bran, Frost Death Knight became nearly unstoppable. Its reign was short-lived, Blizzard nerfed it just 2 weeks later. After that, it still saw play in a more balanced form, until it was hit again, this time with a nerf to its durability. In the end, the card was as lifeless as the minions it created.
The end of days is finally upon you!
And finally, we have a card that drove many insane in Yogg-Saron Unleashed. Released with the Fall of Ulduar, Yogg-Saron was a 15 mana Titan that got its cost reduced by 1 for each spell you played. As a Titan, it had 3 abilities to choose between. First, you could mind control a minion. Second, you could force all enemy minions to attack each other. And third, you could fill your hand with Chaotic Tendrils, which would cast increasingly higher cost spells. While Titans were often already the best card of each class, Yogg-Saron immediately took the spot of best Titan with its ability to control the board at usually no cost. Especially spell-heavy decks such as Druid and Rogue were able to use Yogg to its full ability. But it was so strong that even decks that couldn't cast 15 spells were running it. Together with Prison Breaker, released in the same set, Druid and Rogue were running rampant on ladder due to the fact that these cards make sure the opponent could never get on board. A month later, the card was reworked, the quickest rework ever, so that it would have a fixed cost of 9 and would now cast 2 random spells to be more in line with older Yoggs. The card would continue to see a lot of play and later got nerfed again to 10 mana, but it never reached the heights again of the madness that was the first month of Ulduar. Thanks for joining me on this dive into some of Hearthstone's most notorious cards. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments which card you would have included. Thank you for watching and until next time.